Hello, my name is Dante Renee, and welcome to the 10 Room Bizarro YouTube page. Tonight's movie is Jess Franco's 1976 Night of the Skull. You can see on this beautiful artwork here on the cover. And you can see the back of this Image Entertainment DVD release. This DVD is now, it is definitely out of print, and it's going for used for like 40 bucks on Amazon as of January 2016. Night of the Skull, 1976. This is definitely has some inspirations, as it says in the credits, to Edgar Allan Poe and also Cat and the Canary. Definitely the haunted house films of a bygone era. You can almost think of Bob Hope, those films, Old Dark House. And even in more modern times, like a film like House of a Thousand Corpses. But there was always, the reading of a will, a murder, many family members coming around to hear the reading of the will, and mysterious things happening, murder, the supernatural, a rainy night. This film really is inspired by those things, even as you see in the opening credits of the film. Night of the Skull is really a wildly atmospheric film, like all Jess Franco films. But you can see in the opening credits, that the cuts in this film are really, really unique and special. Almost remind me of the cat cuts in the film Sexy Sisters by Jess Franco, the cat art in the house. There's a scene where he's kind of cutting all around that, and there is tension in the opening credits of this film as you see these quick cuts of a skull, and cut with the thunder and the lightning and the music. But you can see that the cuts in this, right from the opening credits, man, you are getting thrown into this haunted house type world. And the cuts of that skull get thrown quickly throughout the entire film, bringing a very, very kind of ominous vibe to the film, especially at those moments. In this film, he does utilize zooms. He does them on characters' faces in particular, and kind of zooms back from their faces as well. He also does a couple there's one in particular, mirror reflection shots that's pretty awesome. And in this particular film, he's doing a lot of things with shadows, tons of things with shadows. The lighting in this film is dark, but not in a negative way. The transfer on this Image Entertainment DVD is actually quite good. And it's the film is in darkness. I mean, it's almost always at night inside of this old home, and rainstorms. But the way that Franco uses shadows in this film is just awesome, specifically as you see at the end of the movie. So he's using this in quicker cuts and things like that throughout this film. Now, in terms of the music, man, the music is unbelievable. There's a main kind of theme that kind of runs through the film that almost sounds like a mix of like Ennio Morricone with, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, by the way, with like James Horner from Humanoids from the Deep mixed with The Shining. I mean, you can hear voices in it a little bit, or what seems to be voices, organ type sounds. There's very oppressive type sounds happening, very loud, abrasive sounds at times that it's very dark. It's very ominous of a score, very mysterious, and very well done. Sounds like an organ, then there's orchestration, and like I said, the voices, and then at times just this oppressive, dissonant, crashing and crazy type sounds throughout the film. Now, in terms of the environments in here, I mean, of course we have this really awesome house. And you're not seeing a ton of the house, but you are seeing various rooms, and you even see what seems to be a hotel, and also some of the most beautiful shots. Jess Franco is always looking for the nature around in his films, and he gets his opportunity, albeit only for really macabre circumstances. But it's this beach with this rock, this like kind of rock mountain, and the waves crashing up upon the rocks in this one section. And you can sense in the opening credits with the flashes of lightning that this is still in a tropical area. This DVD has English subtitles, and it's definitely spoken in Spanish. Um, in this film, I mean, this is a haunted house film for Jess Franco. We have tons of atmosphere, tons of thunder and lightning, lots of moments where there's no music at all, and then the music comes in. So there's moments of lots of dialogue with no music, and then the music comes crashing in at those opportune times. So that's actually different for your typical Jess Franco film, which has music almost all the time. If you watch a lot of his films, in this particular film, we definitely have a mystery. We have murders, we have mystery, we have a killer who has quite a dark presence, actually a really, really cool presence about him. And the violence in this film, it's a very violent movie, but not a gory film. If you don't understand what I'm saying, it's all in the kind of the tone. I mean, this film could probably be rated, PG-13 nowadays or something. It's unrated on the DVD, but it's it's very violent in the situations. There's one piece where somebody gets buried alive, and that was really violently done, just in the way it was done. And Franco's camera kind of lingers on the violence in this film, whether it be a drowning or whether it be being buried alive, or there are some shots that he has in here where the violence is actually quite different for him in this type of straight horror setting you get, and there's not a lot of blood. And, it's not very offensively done, but it's very effectively violent. Now, when it comes to the sexuality of this film, this is a very restrained film for Franco. We have only tiny shots of nudity, a woman's butt, a breast through a wet gown, but in violent circumstances, predominantly. And we have very kind of conservative sexuality for Franco, but as you watch the film, you can see that Franco is still doing his thing, whether it be the pulling down of a woman's stockings, or whether it be as I said, quick glimpses of a breast, or a breast through a wet gown, through a violent scene, or whether it be the weird sexual tension that is possibly incestuous in this film as well, by the way, something else there. And even the dialogue in this film, there are pieces of dialogue predominantly with a detective and police officer, the detective in particular, that the dialogue is really there are some funny moments in the dialogue, or just really kind of outrageous comments that are being made about a Chinese woman, and you can see also Jess Franco's you can see his sexuality in this film, even though it's more conservative. It's there in the subtle ways. Even in one of the characters being, said that he runs a brothel. It's that way. This film is very sophisticated. This is almost kind of playing like an old-fashioned type of film, and everybody is dressed, in lush outfits, and they're all wealthy, and you can kind of sense this whole vibe through the film. And Jess Franco brings his conservative rebelliousness. Does that sound crazy? I mean, this film is more conservative for him, but he's bringing his wildness through the film in much more subtle ways, are still extremely effective. For a Franco fan, you can see that. You can find that throughout the entire film. This film, plays in some ways like a whodunit, but also, but in a horror type of atmosphere. And there's some very creepy sections of this film, predominantly in the first 15 minutes, with the reading of passages from this like apocalyptic book that almost sounds like Bible verses in some form or fashion. I think the beginning was actually Bible verses. And that brings me to my next area. This film really does have a lot of biblical dialogue and even plot points. There's interestingly a lot of biblical or religious biblical dialogue scattered throughout this film, which is not totally common for a Jess Franco film, unless it's dealing specifically with, nuns or, the devil or something like that. But not this film does not. And it still has that throughout the film. The acting was great. Lena Romay is in this film, and she plays a young girl. And in 1976, I mean, she was. And you'll also find a guy in the film who plays her half brother, who he's been in a ton of Franco films as well. I mean, he was in Cecilia. My gosh, the list goes on and on and on and on. And, this is a film that, interestingly enough, it was made in 1976, and Franco was making some pretty wild, explicit films in this time period. But it just really shows Franco's diversity, that you could never really pinpoint him and down and say, oh, these are the only movies he makes. I mean, for a guy who's made, up, 200 plus films, this film really shows how different each one of his films can be. This was Night of the Skull, 1976, folks. Here it is, 82 minutes, put out by Image Entertainment. Beautiful artwork on the cover there. Night of the Skull, the Jess Franco film. This is currently out of print, so make sure you go on eBay or Amazon and definitely pick this up. And you can see the back here. Some cool images right there. 1976 is Jess Franco's Night of the Skull. Thank you, Jess Franco, and thank you for watching the 10 Room Bizarre YouTube page. Check out more of my reviews on this page. Lots of Jess Franco reviews, and at least tons more Jess Franco to come, and tons more movies in general that I believe aren't being talked about enough. Thank you so much. Check out my own personal films at youtube.com/poopydiarrhea. And thank you, and good night.